Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching this webinar on system dynamics, understanding complex problems through systems thinking. As all of you may know, we are CLASP. My name is Whitney Bunt. I am a policy analyst on the youth team, and I work with Isha and Nia, Stephanie, Ruth, um, Shiva, Marlene, on the mental health work group team. CLASP is a national nonpartisan anti-poverty nonprofit advancing policy solutions for low-income people. CLASP stands for the Center for Law and Social Policy. We currently have 6 teams and 2 cross-cutting teams. We have the child care team, the youth team, the income work support team, immigration team, which is a new team, post-secondary education and workforce team, job quality, and I think that's all of them. Yep. But we work specifically, and then there's the 2 cross-cutting teams, which is mental health and justice. And the mental health team is the initiative that you all are under, which is the MOMD, as well as the PATH, which is policy advancing transformation and healing, and the moving on maternal depression initiatives that is led by Isha. And so we are doing a webinar on system dynamics because this will be one of the activities that you all partake in during the June convening. And it is a activity that will kind of facilitate you all through various discussions on how to get some work done and to think about some action steps, and also to get you through some shared definitions on many different concepts. So I'm excited to be able to do this with you all, and I hope you all enjoy it. So today, I just want to give you an overview of what system dynamics is and what you can look forward to on June 18th. So I already introduced myself. My name is Whitney again. I am a policy analyst on the youth team. I recently graduated from grad school with a master's in social work and a concentration in children, youth, and families with a specialization in system dynamics and policy. And I brought this tool to CLASP because I thought it would be a good way for us to do TA and for us to explore in a new way for us to explore complex problems. I am very excited to be able to share this with different states and localities throughout the nation because this is one of my passions and I enjoy doing it. So that's me. Today we will go over the overview of system dynamics. I will give you examples of how it's being used, and we can talk about the benefits of why system dynamics is useful in this space and any space that I move into next, and how you can use it and it may benefit your work in the long run. And then we'll talk about next steps in closing. So before I give an overview of system dynamics, I just want to share a video with you all of how system dynamics have been used in the past. Sorry. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Um, I will just add the link to the web page with the webinar. Um, I apologize. It keeps coming in and coming out, and I watched it before I started this webinar, so I don't know what's happening. So when we talk about system dynamics, we want to talk about first, what is a system? And many of you may be familiar with a system and the definition of a system, but if you aren't, the definition is a system is a set of things, people, cells, molecules, or whatever interconnected in such a way that they produce their own pattern of behavior over time. A system can consist of something as big as a departmental system, or it can be as small as a family unit. A system is anything that produces any behavior over time, and many things do that, so anything can be considered a system in some way, shape, or form. So what is system dynamics? System dynamics is a method in which we enhance learning and about complex systems, and it's a set of tools to elicit and represent mental models. Um, it is a method for understanding, designing, and managing change. It models the relationships between elements in a system and how these relationships influence the behavior of the system over time. It incorporates formal models and informal models with computer simulation to uncover and understand endogenous sources of system behavior. And it also aims to enhance learning in and about complex systems, as well as to improve group processes and to overcome defensive routines for individuals and teams. It encompasses a set of tools to elicit and represent mental models that we hold about different problems and the perspectives we have on those different models. We also use system dynamics to test those models. When we think about system dynamics, we often think about large and complex problems. Usually they're not simple or something that we can solve with just like on our own. It's a problem that we need to really think about what behaviors are producing these changes that we see. So, for example, if I was to ask someone to think about an elephant, and I was, or ask several people to think about an elephant and what that looks like or what that animal looked like, and all the people I was asking were non-seeing, then that could be a complex problem because they aren't sure what an elephant look like, and therefore trying to figure that out would be difficult. So I might see something like this. They might go to different parts of the elephant, and they may say the elephant is different things. For example, one may say an elephant is like a brush, and they may be touching the back of an elephant. Another one may touch the trunk of an elephant and think it's a snake. An elephant could be a rope, and they're touching the tail. And then somebody might be thinking that an elephant is soft and mushy, and they're touching its poop. The point of this graphic is both metaphorical, and the obvious thing is that no matter where you sit in an organization, or no matter who you will always have a different perspective of someone, of a system, in the way that you see the system, depending on your role and depending on who you are and how you approach that system. The other thing, metaphorically, there's always the elephant in the room. So you might understand what's happening in the system, and everybody might be on the same page about the problem, but the problem may be so big and so complex that nobody wants to actually talk about it or deal with it. And so, metaphorically, when we talk about big problems, it's usually the elephant in the room, and nobody actually have the solutions to address it or want to address it because it might cause conflict in your organization or in your system. So, as you heard me mention in the previous slide about mental models, Mental models help us make sense of complex problems and systems, and it's usually a mental model of a dynamic system is a cognitive representation of the real system. And so everyone has a mental model, and the best way to think about a mental model is the perception you have about something and how you problem solve and you make decisions in your daily life. And oftentimes we don't think about the things that led us there because we usually just have these perceptions based on the experiences that we have come in contact with to help us make these quick decisions and these quick analysis about situations. So in reality, if I was to go back to the elephant metaphor and I asked you what an elephant looked like, your mental model already have this perception of what an elephant looked like, and you will be able to um, make that decision quickly because you've already seen an elephant and your experience have allowed you to do so. But we don't often think about that. We don't often slow down enough to think about the mental models that's in place that helped us get to that. With system dynamics, that's what we do. We slow down the processes that it takes for you to make those decisions to have you actually think about the mental models that you have in place based on experiences that you have in that system. So if I was to take the same elephant and say, hey, draw that elephant for me based on your perception or your mental model, you might give me something similar to what you see on the screen, which is different shapes that kind of lead to what an elephant kind of looks like. And this is what your mental model has showed you what an elephant looked like based on your experience and what you've seen in reality. And system dynamics is a little different. If I said, slow down, show me what's happening in your system, we might take that and we might take our mental model, we might drill the elephant, but then instead of the elephant and an elephant like that, we might see something like this, which is what we call a causal loop diagram, which kind of depicts the different behaviors that's happening in relation to each other. So, like this picture shows, we might say, hey, the perception of reality is our mental model. Our mental model then leads to decision and actions that implement policies and programs. However, there are other steps in between that, and with system dynamics, we just take, like I said earlier, we just slow down your mental models, think about the different behaviors that get you to those decisions and actions and programs. And so on June 18th, this is something we'll be doing to kind of think about a problem that you all are facing. So, I'm guessing everyone is wondering, well, what have system dynamics been used for? System dynamics has been used for a number of things, and I not just the things that you see on the screen, but even more than that. So I graduated from Washington University in St. Louis. They have a Center for System Dynamics, and they have used this tool to do a number of things and to work on a lot of complex problems. They also have this program for high school students and freshmen and sophomores in college where they are able to facilitate and to hold their own workshops for system dynamics, and they teach them this during a summer program called Changing Systems. This gun violence workshop was done by high schoolers in the St. Louis area who basically got together to talk about the behaviors that impact gun violence. From that workshop, they were able to come up with a set of recommendations that they were able to propose to the mayor of St. Louis to basically stop gun violence in the city. During my time in St. Louis, I did a workshop at a high school with teachers, principals, students, as well as parents on student-teacher relationships and how to improve those student-teacher relationships and to see what problems and what behaviors were causing a breakdown in student-teacher relationships. Currently, that school is working on how to integrate our recommendations that we made for them into their school culture. Another one is, and this is for like the Mountain D states, so we're probably wondering how can we do this with maternal depression. We often, my director and the associate director at the school often travels internationally to do system dynamic workshops. And he a couple of years ago went to Honduras and talked to the prime minister and some more government people about how to decrease maternal and fetal mortality. In that workshop, they figured out that maternal mortality was related to the response time of ambulance. And from there, the recommendation was basically to decrease the response time of the ambulance to women in labor, which will decrease the decrease the mortality rate in Honduras. From there, the Honduras made a policy that actually was implemented to basically reduce the number of deaths in their country, which was really cool. Another workshop I've done is improving work culture in an organization, and this was done at every level. I got to talk and work with the senior leadership, middle management, as well as the on the ground workers and the advancement project people to improve the work culture of the organization. I did that last year, and it was interesting because this year or earlier or later last year, like the end of last year in December, I got a call from my ex-supervisor, and she told me that they were starting to implement some of the recommendations that I made to them to improve their work culture. And just recently, one of my good friends and someone I used to do SD with all the time came to Washington, D.C. to talk about trauma-informed schools and improving the mental health services in schools in the District of Columbia, which was really cool. And I was able to consult with her on the different recommendations that she had for the schools, and she's still working with them to ensure that those recommendations that she provided for them are implemented. And as I said when I first started this slide, that system dynamics can be used literally for any complex problem in any system. And I just want to make that clear. And so if you feel the need to want to do this in your own state, in your own departments, after we do it at the June convention, please do not hesitate to reach out. I am great resource to kind of put you on a path to be able to do this in your own work in the future. So why this tool? We want to use this tool to help the states and localities get a better understanding of the problems they are facing in their respective systems. We want you all to understand the behaviors that may be breaking down your systems that doesn't allow you to get the outcomes that you want to see. We also want you to generate shared definitions. I think the coolest thing about system dynamics is that we realize that every system doesn't have the same definitions on different things. So, for example, a lot of people, the PAF states are working with youth and young adults. Youth and young adults mean different things to different agencies in the same state. So for adult systems, you are adult at 18. For organizations or CBOs in that same state, young adult or youth may stop at 24 or 25. And so getting people on the same page about what a youth and young adult is will be very effective for their system and the services that they provide to that population. And so thinking about that in a broader term and a broader sense of the problems that you all are working on and the goals that you have for these different initiatives, we just want people to be on the same page because we realize that everyone is working from a different agency with different perspectives and different definition of things in their city, which is probably a barrier that they're facing to actually get the outcomes that they want to see. And then the last goal is to understand the barriers that states and localities are facing in relation to their proposed goals. I just kind of highlighted that in the last goal, but we just want to understand what are some of the um, very basic and the very large barriers that states are facing just to get to their proposed goals, and how can we provide better TA assistance to you all to actually overcome those goals, those barriers, and achieve those goals that you want to see at the end of these initiatives. And so system dynamics is a great way to see that and to get people to talk about things that they're facing and to see why they're facing those problems and to see how all of those behaviors that you are talking about in your system are interconnected in some way, shape, or form. And so in the June convening, we will be discussing one problem that you might be having and figuring out how we can best help you and assist you get over that to get the outcomes that we want you all to achieve, as well as the outcomes that you all want to achieve. So the benefits of this tool is a visual representation of the system, which is how we kind of come up with recommendations, because we get to see basically where we can kind of have leverage in your system, and then where we can make changes. And we're able to see what variables and what factors are truly impacting your system. We are able to produce action steps to address those behaviors in the system, not only with your help, but we also can do that through the visual representation. And then we have like I said before, you get a shared understanding of the problem in the system, and it allows you to talk with other people in your state to understand where they're coming from and understand their mental models and perspective on where the problem lies in the system. Because, like I mentioned earlier in the webinar, everybody doesn't see the problem the same, and therefore they're addressing the problem differently, which is causing you to get different outcomes and not the outcomes that you want to see. So system dynamics is a way for you to get a shared understanding of the problem in your system. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Isha, Nia, or any of the mental health people I mentioned in the beginning to answer any questions before the convening. I will also, at the convening, don't feel free to also ask questions there before we start the workshop. On the next page, I have provided you with resources. They're also on the web page that this webinar will be on. And if you need any of my information, it's right here. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I will try to respond in the next 24 hours.
This is Isha from CLASP, and I'm thinking that some of our partners from the states and locality may be wondering what of these activities we're going to be doing during the convening and what the CLASP staff will be doing after the convening.
Oh, yes. The activities is a little harder to explain, but we'll be doing some activities that kind of work with each other. So we'll be starting off with an activity called Hopes and Fears, which is something that just gets a feel of the room and where people are and how they are feeling about the workshop itself, and how we as facilitators can make your experience as positive as possible. It's also a way for us to set group norms so that we can get an idea of how we can best make you feel safe and give you the opportunity to be as candid as possible in the space. And then we'll move on to this activity called Grass Over Time, which just kind of solicits different variables that may be impacting the system that we're talking about in this space. And it's a cool way to do it because it also allows you to think about when something started and where it is now, and where you want to see it in the future. It will be better explained once you are able to see it, but Grass Over Time also then leads to the next activity, which is causal loop diagram in. It looks similar to, if you remember back on the elephant slide. I can go back. I'm going to go back. This is a causal loop diagram. This is what you'll be doing in the last activity, just mapping out your system to see what behaviors are interacting with another behavior that's producing the outcomes that you see currently in your system. And then the last activity is action ideas, where we'll be asking you what's some action steps that you can take to actually improve your system, whether big or small, whether it has a high impact or low impact, but something that can actually impact one of the variables that you created in your system and actually make a change. And then after we complete the workshop, the class staff and myself will be taking your models back to class with us, and we'll be synthesizing or refining the systems that you created to accurately reflect what you said, and to think about recommendations that we can make to you all to actually implement through your TA experience with us and through the initiative. And so that's where we'll be going after this. After the June convening, we will be using all of the work that you did during the workshop to actually make more recommendations to y'all on how we could better assist you with your TA based on the problem that we chose for you all. And again, here's my contact information if you have any questions beforehand or even afterwards. Okay, thank you.